being chased, thrown on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a grab.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's the warrior spirit right there, boy.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
90-yard touchdown. 90-yard touchdown.
It's going to be picked off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Herbert sets his feet, takes a shot downfield, has Guyton. Caught! Touchdown, Chargers!
That's the greatest throw I've ever seen.
Yes, hello, and welcome back to me, to all, to the Thunder Down Under Chargers Football Podcast. Your host, Andy Prophet here, back from a little bit of a getaway up the East Coast, joined by my two great mates, Jack and Alistair. Jack, just like to say, I thought you did a wonderful job stepping into the host role last week, keeping old Chatterbox here in check throughout, a wonderful little discourse between the two of you. How are you both, Jack?
I'm going well, thanks, mate. It's a very, very busy time of year at school and feeling the pressure in the professional life, but hey, that's all right. We all do that sometimes. But thank you for the kind words and glad to have you back this week because us two, we tend to dialogue far too much and we need to be kept on track. So it's great to have you back, mate.
And Al, how you doing, mate?
Good, mate. We're just excited about your fantastic news. All that good stuff. You might almost need to give a little short rundown of what happened if you managed to get it out in one fell swoop, or if it was a bit of a stuttering experience.
No, I got it all out in one fell swoop, as you said.
Very good.
Executed the day as planned. Big surprise. A resounding yes. Save all the romantic stuff. Actually, I eagerly got up early on Friday. We had some accommodation up in the Hunter Valley, a wine district in New South Wales, to watch you guys on YouTube. Check it out. But I had to actually clean up the place and we had to get out of the accommodation that morning. So I waited to listen to the rest of the episode in the car trip back from the Valley to Newcastle. About a 45-minute drive, so perfect for the rest of the show. In doing so, I've made my brand new fiancée sit through the episode of the show that I wasn't even on. So look,
she'd already said yes by that point, mate.
That's
so
it.
you're in.
You're
It's
in.
locked in.
Done. Locked
yeah,
in.
absolutely. This is it. So from the bottom of both of our hearts, we thank the two of you for your lovely words, and also to the TDU family out there, all your lovely words as well. Well wishes as we celebrated our engagement this time last week. It was lovely to read all the comments and stuff. So really blown away. Thank you very much. On that, if you are new to the show, welcome. We're really loving the growing community of listeners and followers we're getting at the moment. We love interacting with you all. So share your thoughts with us. Also, please do us a quick favor, hit the like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or just give us a review and a rating on the audios. We appreciate you guys. Thank you. All right, we've got another primetime defeat to work our way through, this time to the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's see who's improving and who's taking a step back, and then we'll get stuck into hopefully a dominating road win against the Arizona Cardinals. All right, Los Angeles Chargers 27, Kansas City Chiefs 30. It was the Chiefs receiving the opening dick off on Sunday Night Football. Coverage looked a little sketchy early. The pressure on Mahomes was there. SJD getting himself a little get-to-know-your time. Derwin James, Travis Kelce. This time a win for Derwin early up and keeping the Chiefs to a field goal. Just got the scoreboard ticking. Godly, it was great seeing 13 and 81 back in the lineup. Straight off the bat, boom, 16 yards up to Keenan. Then a screen that gained yardage. Woo, just wait for it on 2nd and 2. 50-yard explosion to Joshua Palmer. Al, you and me were watching it. Golly, the couch was getting mighty hot. Chargers flipping the script on the sluggish starts and the shithousery of first quarters past. It was then a field goal each before Mahomes does what Mahomes does, dropping the ball into a thimble for Forts and setting up a simple Travis Kelce touchdown. Chiefs with the lead. We were in for one then. Concerns over Mike Williams' ankle started to mount, landing a bit awkwardly after a beautiful sideline catch. Beautifully crafted drive by the Bolts under the fire, and Justin Herbert led to yet another Austin Eckler touchdown. His 13th on the year to date. Not bad, not bad. The defense, itching to get itself off the field. Consecutive 3-and-outs by the Chiefs gave Herbie and co another crack before the main break. Was settling for a field goal at the 3-yard line the conservative straw that broke the camel's back? Second half started with a flurry of penalties and clear indicators that the offensive line was starting to lose the battle of the trenches. Herbert copping big sacks and big hits. Offensive stagnancy rearing its ugly head again. Defensively, things looked tight, keeping the Chiefs to another field goal. And then big lapses on 3rd and 17, 3rd and 7, iced with a hopeless tackling display. Travis Kelce again, this time from 33 yards on 3rd and 4. Soft as shit. Allen makes amends for his fumble, reeling in a serious hamstring tester for 46 yards, and a handy touch of run blocking to set up 1st and goal. Josh Palmer in for his 2nd of the day. As we all know, leaving the Chiefs 1:46 on the clock and 2 timeouts, it's just too much. Maybe a missed offensive pass interference on Valdez-Scantling. Maybe a soft holding call on the other side of the field on Derwin. Both earning first downs. Mahomes a scramble. Kelce in for the go-ahead touchdown, winning the final battle with Derwin James and the game for Kansas City. Frantic final possession of the Chargers was reminiscent of some of the bad times with Phil Rivers, an awkward sack and a game-losing interception. The positives of 5-3 post-bye record now crashing down to earth at 5-5. Chiefs storming ahead in the division with a near unassailable lead. Oh, golly, it was heartbreak again, and it was really hard to sit through. But here we sit. Jack, you sent us some great videos, man. The emotions were raw.
I don't think we'll share those ones.
I hope you've apologized to the pillows that you threw through your wall. That was awesome.
I had my hearing in court today. They're suing me for grievous bodily harm. So,
goodness.
Anyway, it is what it is.
Mate, now that the dust settled a little bit, we've had a couple of days out. What are your big takeaways from the game?
Listen, it's pretty hard. I was fairly negative at first watching it. You know, you're there. We've been there so many times. And to have it kind of play out exactly the way it has time before, almost to the letter. Kelce walking in, running in, can't tackle him, being very arrogant, and man, I can appreciate
taunting us.
How amazing Kelce is, but god damn, I hate that guy. Yeah, that was hard. And I think, Alistair, you pointed out that there are going to be more positives to walk away from this game than negatives. I don't know if I sort of agree. Even a couple of days out, you shared a couple of videos on Twitter with the All-22 showing some fairly inadequate scheming, inadequate play. I don't know. The biggest one that sticks out to me, again, we just can't. There's this lack of coherency. And yes, I understand that we're playing with a lot of injuries. We're playing with, our 3rd and 4th down defensive linemen. But we started to hopefully have some coherency back with Keenan and Mike. But just some of the hurry-up offense and just the flow of the game just never seems to be on our terms. It just jars me whenever I'm watching. So I'll get into some stuff later on. But that was the big thing that I took away was just the way that the the first half ended, I just went, oh my God, it's going to happen again, isn't it? And lo and behold, it did.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because when you just think of the last 2 weeks and the fact that the team still has one hand tied behind its back because it's missing some decent players in most instances, others flat out superstars, and we've lost by 4 points to the Niners and 3 points to the Chiefs. Should we be feeling great? Should we be thinking, look, they might be the best 2 teams in the NFL. They might make the Super Bowl, and we're within a field goal or a touchdown of both of them with opportunities to win. But it's never really how you feel, particularly when I kind of perceive some fatal flaws in what I'm watching. And I think some of it is that feel, as you say, Jack, like the instincts appear to be off, and we'll unpack that as we discuss the game. But I'm now worried that the run defense is completely cooked. One of the great benefits of rewatching a couple of days later from a different vantage point, a different type of film, you typically pick up new things. And because I was so engrossed in the game, I didn't really notice how the Chiefs came out in the 3rd quarter and just ran the fucking ball down our throats. They went Pacheco 18 yards, Pacheco 9 yards, Pacheco 8 yards, Pacheco 4 yards, McKinnon 4 yards, McKinnon 7 yards. In the second half, they had 17 carries for 102. It's 6 per tote. And when you were watching, there wasn't even a consistency in how they were gashing us, man. It was up the middle and then outside the tackles, and then up the middle and then outside the tackles. Missed tackles, Derwin making mistakes, Adderley making mistakes, SJD blown off the ball, Fox getting double teams, Tranquil in the wrong gap. And for that to be happening in the second half of games against a team that's not even very good at running the ball traditionally, it just doesn't augur well when the 49ers did that to us last week. So that's the big standout just to start with this game. I thought run defense might be gassed for the entire year. Do you think there's any reason why we could improve it, Andy?
Well, I don't. I think we had our opportunities to bring in some extra cavalry in the weeks past, and
I know where you're going.
About that. We touched on this, and nothing happened. So I don't know. I don't. All the words you get out of the coaches is we've got the guys in the building to do the job. They've just got to execute. I'm like, mate, they never execute. They're not the guys. There were moments where, and look, Jack, you said at the top, third and fourth down linemen and stuff. I thought Morgan Fox actually got in there pretty well, and it was maybe Kyle Van Noy listens to the show and he heard you rev up, Al, but he was everywhere. So look, I don't see how we can really improve unless we execute. There's more I want to get into about how we go about executing.
Well, there's no one coming back. So unless you're signing new people, that's it. That's our defensive tackle group now without Austin Johnson and Tito and everyone else. Tillery.
I don't know what you do. SJD, again, per PFF, had a poorly rated game, even though he flashed on a couple of those sacks that I thought was good to see. But I said it in our chat.
Sacks.
But his pass rush was good, Jack. I know what you're saying. He rushed the passer well, and then just he was getting blown off a bit on the run D.
And this is a big question. I raised it in the group earlier. We've signed SJD because he was effective in Staley's scheme when he was at the Rams, but was he only effective because he was next to Aaron Donald, arguably the greatest defensive player of all time?
Helps.
I don't know where we're going to go. We still had some exotic looks. There were still some 5 and 6. I think there was a 5 and 6 down time, sort of rushing Mahomes at times. There was some slot corner blitzes and things, but I don't know how we're going to stop it because Kenneth Murray and Drew Tranquil and Troy Reader are just not built to stop the run. They're smaller. I mean, arguably Kenneth Murray should, but I just don't know what we're going to do because teams will just run it, whether it's outside now or inside. My battle cry a couple of weeks ago was please don't get beaten on the outside, and we've done a pretty good job at stopping that, but now we're just getting 8 yards, 7 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards. It's just, I don't know what to do. I don't know. Imagine what Staley's thinking right now going, fucking hell, how do I do this?
Yeah, it's a good point, man. Like, we spoke so joyfully at the start of the season about bringing in guys and not having to use them as every down players like Van Noy and Mac and that sort of stuff. Mac probably not so much, but Van Noy for sure. And now look where we are, where these guys just getting burnt out, and it shows.
Playing way too much.
Yeah.
Playing way too much. You don't want Mac playing 90% of snaps and Van Noy 75%. They'll get injured in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
This is not what you want.
No.
Storm clouds are brewing, man. I'm starting to... I don't mind going deep dark for a couple of minutes. I'm pissed off. Slow starts to the third quarter. Get fucked. What is the DeAndre Carter? Why are we returning the ball out of the end zone to start the second half? Copping a penalty, so you start at the 11-yard line. Okay, 3-and-out punt. Then you've got the Chiefs running the ball with impunity. Where are the instincts? Lombardi calling a wide receiver bubble screen at midfield on a 1st and 10.
What are we doing?
2-yard loss when you're moving the ball down the field. Chargers allowing a 43.8% conversion rate on 3rd and 11 plus.
Ludicrous.
By far, that 3rd and 17 made me sick. What are we doing on that play? If you look at, they're running some cover 4 shell. Adderley's about 35 yards off the line of scrimmage. That is ludicrous. The easiest 25-yard completion I've ever seen in my life. So
Crazy.
there are things to be annoyed about in this game, even though we only lost by 3 points. All of that stuff. They're repeat offender issues, right? Instincts. When are you going into hurry up? Why aren't you going for it on 4th down here when last year you used to do it? 3rd and long, giving it up on defense. Geez, but we only lost by 3 points, right? So it's a bizarre feeling. Mahomes had one of his best games I've ever seen. He was on fire, but we only lost by 3 points. Explain it to me.
It's so bizarre, isn't it? It's just so enigmatic. This team is just so enigmatic. It's hard to put a finger on it. Do we want to look at some positives and maybe look at Troy Reader was on the field for Kenneth Murray and had some big games? I mean,
okay, mate. Would you like to see more of Troy Reader, Jack? Would you like to see him take, Murray's role or something?
Well, why not? I mean, the guy can cover that coverage that he had on who was it? It was
Noah Gray.
Fulton?
Noah Gray.
Noah Gray was incredible. He forced that Peanut Tillman would have been happy with that fumble. But keep him on there, especially in coverage downs. Get Kenneth Murray off the field if that's the case. So
on Kenneth Murray. Sorry, I'll let you finish and then I'll jump back.
No. I was going to throw to you if we've got any more happiness or any. Can we see a parting of the storm clouds anywhere?
All right. Well, yes, to a degree, I'll remain happy, I guess, if you want. I thought the script game, the start of our game, was great for once. It wasn't conservative. Big play opening to Keenan. Awesome to get him into the game straight away. DeAndre Carter on the screen out to the near side, and then bang to Josh Palmer. That was awesome. The defense, there was, like you said, Jack, there was some exotic stuff early. We mixed it up and we got the pressure on Mahomes.
Actually applied a lot of pressure on Mahomes throughout the game. He just did well not to turn it over, but a lot of pressure applied, one of the most in weeks, I thought. So you're right, they're doing something right.
Yeah, well, that's another thing as well, the pressures. And good time management. I think we restricted the Chiefs to one possession in the last 7 or 8 minutes of the half. I guess the last little bit was a bit disappointing. I thought kicking the field goal at the end of the half was probably from the 3-yard line, something that could have worked. Well, it was 4th and 1 or something. Oh no, we lost a couple of yards on the play before.
You're right.
So I thought there were.
Yeah,
I thought there were a couple of positives. Something a little bit different. The way that we sort of approached it was just I felt just confused the hell out of it. Like it was stuff that we've sort of never seen. But things change when you've got good receivers back in the lineup, and they change the way the defense operates. So you can open up guys like Josh Palmer. Al, what positives have you got, man?
I want to build on that. I think that's what we need to cling on to. That as soon as Keenan returns, what a difference it looked like offensively for decent stretches. We were suddenly accessing the deep part of the field in ways that we just haven't done this year, particularly off play action. That first Palmer touchdown, that's what I want to see. Fake handoff. Herbert actually takes about 6 extra steps to his right, and you have this max protection, and you see him load up, and then you just know good things are going to happen when he does that. 100%. No pressure because of the way it's been schemed up. He's gotten outside of the pocket, let it rip. And there was another really good one to DeAndre Carter for 20 yards where they used Palmer as a clear out so Carter could come on the deep crosser. So I don't know. That our chance, I think, I've got a feeling the defense, we're banking on it being a turnover-based defense that every couple of weeks they'll stand up. But they've got some flaws that I don't think they're going to fill. We need Herbert and Keenan and Mike and Palmer just to go out and be gods, essentially. And they can do it. Palmer's had his second consecutive game with 100 yards. That was his best game, that one, I thought. 8 catches, 2 touchdowns. Yeah. He gets a lot of help suddenly when he's got Keenan in. So I'm happy to be pretty positive about, the arrival of Josh Palmer. You've got Keenan's return. Just give us one of Everett or Mike Williams. And these defenses we're coming up against the next few weeks aren't that good. Cardinals, Raiders, Dolphins. We could score a lot of points. And I think that's our main chance to stay in these games.
Yeah.
That worries me a little bit talking about Herbert and Allen and Williams and Palmer to play well, because the offensive line against not a very good defensive line in the Chiefs had an absolute stinker. Zion Johnson had his worst game for the year. I think Matt Filer had one of his worst games.
He was
of the
so
year.
bad.
I think
Chris
it was
James
shocking.
is so good, though. Chris Jones is so good.
I get that, but the rest of the talent around him, we made them look a lot better than I think they are, or they just exposed how bad we are. I mean, Soldier had one of his worst games. Herbert was under a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. And I just worry that we go back into that conservatism of, okay, let's protect Herbert, so let's not launch down the field. But as you say, maybe there can be a bit of yin and yang here, is that even though we have just, I don't know, you've got a pencil sharpener and an eraser and all sorts of shit happening on the offensive line, that maybe the receivers can overcome some of the shortcomings of that. Because you know what? Mike McDaniels is going to throw all sorts of stuff at us. I think Cliff Kingsbury this week might move Zach Allen all up and down that line. Teams are going to try and expose that.
Well, here's the data that supports that. That was awesome news for Chargers fans. This week on the offense, we went at 9.33 yards per attempt, highest of any game of the season. The average depth of target, 9.1 yards per attempt, second highest of the year. Only 4 catches thrown to running backs. We've been calling for that all year. And the first game of the year with 0 dropped passes by Chargers wide receivers. So all of that bodes well for the first game with Keenan coming back. Just don't do your hamstring again, buddy. And that would be good.
Yeah, one other thing, just touching on Keenan before you shoot off, Al. I thought that his natural ability to generate separation, and it was so visible so early on, I felt like that was contagious to the other guys. I saw DeAndre Carter do it with far more ease. And look, the Chiefs' defensive backs aren't that bad, but it seemed like his presence in blocking as well was great. It helped Eckler so much more. And I think that leadership on the field is just pivotal. Al.
Oh, it's hard. Like every time I think about the game, it kind of comes back to Travis Kelce, right? And you're just watching one of the greats of all time. And Patrick Mahomes, you're watching one of the greats of all time. And every time they had a must-have-it moment, our approach to this game was clearly to play a bit more man coverage on Kelce. And when we lined up Derwin on Kelce, for the most part, it worked until that very last play of the game. Hey, Jack, I know you've been looking at some cover 1 defense. That was your cover 1 lurk. And you had Adderley playing the robber, and they've run a mesh concept across the middle. He's just feeder in quicksand. He hasn't moved. He's meant to have inside leverage there to try and get in the way and tackle Kelce. It's hard. It's a tough ask on Derwin to come from the other side of the formation like that. That's just good scheming by Reed, good execution. And then every time Kelce was on Asante Samuel Jr. or that one on Kenneth Murray that went for 35 yards, my God, he's just a superstar. Man coverage doesn't work. Throw that in the bin for next time.
It was just indicative that Kenneth Murray may have, for a big guy, some decent straight line speed, but his agility is just poo. It's just... That was atrocious. You just cannot have Kenneth Murray in any situation lining up on Travis Kelce. And considering the way that, the fact that the Chiefs came into the game with Smith-Schuster out, Mecole Hardman out, how did we not just prepare a little
Tony
bit more?
got injured at the start of the game and didn't play.
How did we just not prepare more for Travis Kelce? He fucks us up every single time.
It's
always the same
really
shit, and we can't tackle him.
Is this a good segue to maybe start talking about a bit of a macro picture at scheming and some of the statements that I prepared and shared with both of you earlier?
I think so. Pull us out of the darkness, Jack. Get us to a macro high level.
I don't know how light and pleasant this will be, but for the listeners earlier today, I just was sort of pontificating about what the game means, and I was sort of thinking ultimately it's our sideline versus the Chiefs sideline. We're going to see Andy Reid and Mahomes for however long, and what does that actually mean for us, and where do we sit? So my first statement, and I'll sort of open it up to you guys to agree, disagree, or maybe just sort of chime in. But this was my first statement, and this is what I sort of was thinking. So defensive coaches or head coaches are generally speaking, conservative in how they approach their preparation. Their mindset is to actually rationally try and stifle the creativity of the opposition offenses. That's what defensive coordinators do. Generally speaking, they are reactionary in their approach to game planning, and even though they might try to prepare some creative sort of moments to upset the opposition, game day it's a conservative mindset approach. Don't muck up, don't make a big mistake, don't make a mistake, don't let that big play go. Whereas the offense, I guess at a very base philosophical level, is more creative. It's looking for that big break. It's just the nature of the game. Okay. How does that sit with you, Alistair?
It speaks to me. I think that's right. I mean, even your great exemplars of defensive head coaches typically have great defenses and creative defenses. But look, Belichick's the obvious example. The Tom Brady offense was a little bit cookie cutter. I mean, it's not like they were doing extraordinarily creative things all the time. They were just a highly efficient chain-moving offense, and they relied at various parts of the long history of those two, the defense being dominant, especially the early part of Brady's career. Same with Mike Tomlin. Like their defense first team. So I accept the premise, and I like the way you put it, that as an offensive head coach, you're kind of used to creating things and scheming up ways of scoring quickly and scoring a lot of points. I do think, though, there's a case that Staley breaks the mold a little bit, and that we saw it last year. The fact that he was, saw it last year and was, so willing and eager to do more kind of contrarian things, but I don't want to say too much more because I feel like we're going in that direction based on some googly eyes you're giving me into the camera. So go on, mate.
That's the shut up, Lloyd.
Yeah, that was the be quiet in class look. I've gone, okay, I've got attention.
No, you'd know if I was giving you that look. So I guess my second statement, and Andy, after I say this, I'll sort of throw to you for a little bit of your opinion, but by Staley being our head coach and Lombardi himself, on calling the offense, we sort of perceive him to be perhaps a little cautious, and I don't have any data to back any of this up. But perhaps this is one of the reasons why we're seeing Chargers playing this conservative football this year. Is Staley more, likely to say to Herbert and or Lombardi, don't make a mistake here, don't go for it. Let's just kick the field goal or just check it down. Because Staley, being a defensive coach now, believes he's got that defense with him. He trusts and has confidence in his defensive capabilities as a leader and coach. He's maybe inherently building a rod for his own back when he's, thinking in his head about his play calls. Maybe not. What do you think about that?
Lots to unpack there. I think that last year Staley backed himself a lot more with his belief in analytics and the way that he viewed that as a decision-making tool. And I think he was successful at times and he failed at times. And there was a lot of, oh, geez, we've lost another game because of 4th and Staley, or holy crap, we've won a game because of 4th and Staley. There was arguments for and against, and we just gave the benefit of the doubt and said, let's just back this guy. Like, this is exciting. We're doing stuff, and we should be doing stuff. It was how we felt it was supposed to be. And now he copped a lot of criticism because he lost games, and ultimately, the year comes down to win-loss, and we lost the last game of the season when there was probably a few we left on the field. We missed the playoffs. Season regarded as a failure. Disappointing, but all that criticism and the lack of ultimate success or furthering the season has definitely come into light of the owners and John, and I reckon he's had his wings clipped a little bit. And I think what we're seeing now is a little bit more of an overall conservative kind of approach. Bend, don't break kind of thing. But I think he might be having a little bit of difficulty kind of trying to sort of stomach that, because we know what the Chargers organization is, and we can get into this a little bit further down the track, but the owners need to have a say and need to sort of control and, make it their football team, have their print on the football team rather than getting someone in and letting them run the ship. So I think, ultimately, I think he's had his wings clipped. Joe Lombardi is conservative, and I don't quite understand why, but it's just the way he is, and quite frankly, it's not good enough from either of them.
So here we go, Alistair. Catch-22 is one of our favourite books that we both read, and I have one here for you.
You're Saturday. Yeah, let's go.
Both of you touched on last season, Staley perhaps being less conservative and focusing on analytics and really going for it in situations and, having to live with fourth and Staley. What I believe that was an aberration, because I think that's actually Brandon Staley trying to break the general mold of who he might be as a defensive coach. I'm going to be purposely not gun shy to show that I'm not a defensive coach. In that, I do maybe think because he didn't have the weapons to trust on his defense inherently, he started to do that because that was his route to success. But by building the defense that Staley needed, it has actually meant the Chargers have become less dynamic and creative in their approach to almost everything. It's that catch-22, is get what you want and need, but lose the edge that made you so successful in some cases the last season. What do you think about that?
Not buying it, because what about the game against Cleveland? That might have been the most aggressive thing he's done. Arguably the stupidest, depending on who you speak to. So I think he still has it in his DNA. What I think we're seeing is a confluence of events that are difficult to kind of separate, where you've got quarterback with fractured ribs, Herbert sometimes checking down, Staley sometimes wanting to make decisions to go for it, but the offense isn't pass protecting well. Staley looking at the data and seeing that we're not converting on fourth down very well at all this season. So you adjust your approach when you look and say, well, we've gone for it. I don't have the data in front of me, listeners, sorry. But, we've gone for it X times. And I know the conversion percentage is poor this year. So I think he's still got it in him. And what I expect to see is it come out more and more as Keenan returns, as Mike Williams returns, as Herbert's ribs are fully healed. I was pissed off this week, though, because if you take your minds back to week 2 when we were on the show with Kyle, and I was getting so frustrated about, you must go up at halftime by 2 scores here. You must go for this. It was Groundhog Day. The same thing happened. We were at the Kansas City Chiefs 2. Bad instincts by Lombardi. We're running the ball up the middle excellently. He calls a toss sweep to Eckler, 1-yard loss. And then on a 4th and 2, we decide, you know what, we'll go up 20-13 at halftime. If that's 24-13, different game. And then we also punted on a 4th and inches in the third quarter with 4.5 minutes left. Now, we were at the Chargers 34. We were way back in our territory, but it's 4th and inches. We're up 20-16.
The QB sneak was working. The QB sneak was working.
So, look, I partially abide by what you're saying because he's just being a schizophrenic this year. But I wonder if it's a combo of he's been bagged the shit out of by media. He's now coaching for his career. He saw the kind of reverberations around fandom after the Cleveland near loss, and Keenan Allen smashed him on Twitter. So all of that affects you as a human being, right?
And you're 100% right. And I guess this goes, Andy, you touched beautifully on my statement 4, which was about Staley having his wings clipped by the conservative front office, minimize.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah. And, like John or whoever is like, minimize the wavelengths of the performance, right? Is, don't win big, don't lose too big. That's what we've seen this season, I guess. But so let me go to this last one, which is, the vista of what you see standing on, maybe the Chargers sideline as you look over at the Andy Reid sideline, and what Andy Reid sees when he looks at us. Kind of that Waterboy moment when the coach is looking at the other coach, and that's what I had in my mind anyway. That I do think the difference between Staley and Reid is a relatively simple one. One is offensively minded and exudes confidence. He's also far more experienced. He looks for tricks. He looks to take risks. And his quarterback, you can see, is just purely empowered by this. He throws the ball all over the field to weapons that even after moving on, arguably the best wide receiver in the game in Tyreek Hill, he's getting more production and is looking even better. He's playing better than his MVP year. That this coach and quarterback symbiosis, when they approach a big moment, is not conservative and schizophrenic. It's creative, positive, with a constructive and fairly fairly logical or fairly well thought out and well communicated philosophical approach. When you look at Staley, the schematic choices are strange sometimes. The decisions, the game management are still slightly schizophrenic. I'll use that word again, even though that might not be. I just want to apologise if that's not a word that we use to say that. I don't think it is, but and it is that because he's a defensive coach and he's taken that path, but he's trying to be a head coach. Will he, by no fault of his own, be shouldered with that conservative approach to managing big situation and organisation? And I think therefore maybe the hurry up offense just looks wrong. The game has no flow. We've talked about coherency on this podcast about when the offense is playing well, the defense doesn't, etc. We're just not getting it because I think maybe Staley within himself is struggling, as you said, Alistair. Who am I? What am I doing? And that's kind of where I sort of ended it. I don't know where you guys want to take it from there, but the people, as what we see on the pitch, I should say, is the people behind it. And you look at all the people in our organisation, and it kind of makes sense to me of what we've seen this season.
Well, I'll jump in and I'll go to the Chiefs first. I think I look at this game, and Jack, you said it maybe Monday night in the heat of the moment, but we were a better coach and a better quarterback were on the other side of the field, and I don't know if he exudes confidence, but Andy Reid is a coach who uses what he has and he gets the most out of it. And he can change up this offense and succeed with this offense now without Tyreek Hill because he has the quarterback who can do whatever the fuck he needs him to do. And I think that's a very special situation. Andy Reid's obviously a mastermind and has been doing it for a lot longer than Brandon Staley. But I don't know. I really agree with the concern of identity in Coach Staley, and I think it has been a big shift from what we saw last year to what we saw this year. I think there's a little bit of fairness in what you say about they were more inclined to go for it on fourth and whatever last year because he didn't back the defense to get it done, but now he does. And even though we have these injuries and the depth is a clear problem, a lot of what he's saying in his press conferences is we have the right guys. They just don't execute. And I'm to be honest with you, I'm fed up with hearing that because they're just not guys who are good enough to be premier NFL players and take this team where it needs to be. Also, I'll say he had a star-studded lineup in LA with the Rams, and he could do all kinds of fun stuff. He got the most out of the players and he was far from conservative and by the book as far as his defensive play calling. Is his scheme, now that we've gone from a defense that he clearly didn't trust to the defense that he has now, which we've invested a lot of money in as an organization, and yes, there are a couple of crucial injuries, but we're not getting the results. We're bottom 3 in yards per game, points per game against. We're not seeing any improvement in this defense.
Yeah, we're also first in cap space on IR and war loss for injury. I've got a parting comment to make on this. Time on task is important. Andy Reid and Mahomes have been doing this for 5 or 6 years. Andy Reid's been a head coach for how long? 20 years? Do you know what? There were stretches where Andy Reid was a laughingstock for not knowing how to manage games. He's very creative offensively, but he still has shocker moments where if you look at the fear index, they're like Andy Reid punted on a 4th and 1 from the 42. He's not immune from mistakes. And I think Staley's trying really hard at the moment to negotiate a challenging period in the kind of incipient stage of his coaching career with injuries and pressure. And I still have faith that he's the right guy because he has a learning and he's got a growth mindset, as we've discussed. And we'll see some of this stuff hopefully iron itself out before the end of the season. And I agree with the tempo comment, Jack, but you know what? I'm glad that we're trying to use tempo. There are teams who don't do it, and part of the reason why it doesn't look good is when it doesn't work. I think that's one of those ones where when it doesn't work, you notice it and you go, oh, why do we run tempo? But if it works, you don't feel that way because you're thinking, oh, okay, great. We just suddenly went into tempo for a quarter, a bit like, McVay would do and Brady. But I agree, we're missing that coherence.
Yeah, I mean, I would disagree. I still see even the one where Herbert snuck a couple of times, he lost it, and then he recovered it and went back. I'm still going, what are we doing here? I'll say this, and maybe to finish before we go to snakes and ladders, Andy. As a leader, it takes a very long time to figure out who you are and how you want to run an organisation, and it must be very hard when you are Staley, when you're all about relationships and you're all about making sure that your players, are empowered. Your players know what's going on, but at the same time, you've got all sorts of other forces working around you. You're the figurehead of an organisation when you have powers that be pounding down upon you to say to do this, and they're not visible to any of the media or any of us. So I can't imagine the pressure it would be. I agree. Give Staley time. He's got a growth mindset. At the moment, he's being inconsistently. I don't mind us if we're consistently inconsistent, because that's planned. At the moment, there just doesn't see. They're trying to work out that kind of philosophical approach. When do we go hurry up? Do we leave it to Justin? When do we play exotic sets? Do we pass rush now? It's just a matter of, and I know fans will come at me or come at us and be like, oh, it's not good enough. When you're a leader and it's a big organization, it takes time. You've got, as you said, it's 5 years, 20 years. Look at what Belichick has been able to do. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, look, I wasn't calling for his head by any means. No. But is there an issue?
No.
Is there an issue with his game plan or his scheme and the players not understanding it or not being able to execute it? Because a lot of it is every time it's execution. Or one or two times he'll blame himself, I think, for the big losses. But, these close ones, it's execution. Well, what are you doing that's so different that these guys just cannot do it? Because there's moments where Kenneth Murray just looks like he's stuck in a fishbowl. And what are you doing on the football field, brother? Looks like he has no place there. So I don't know. That's my parting piece on it. Maybe for future thought.
Yeah, well put.
Cool. All right. Jack, mate, do you want to get us started with snakes and ladders?
Well, I alluded to him before, but Troy Reader's going straight up my ladder. He played well. Let's see more of him. Let's go. Whoop. Fight
Straight
that
up
fire,
mine
Reader.
too. Straight up mine too. Out.
Dick of the kicker is up my ladder. We've got Dustin Hopkins. I'm sure we'll get to him in a sec. He's on IR. We finally got a chance to groom a 22-year-old who split the sticks on a 46-yarder for 57. That was going to be good from 57 yards, straight down the middle. Let's groom the young kicker. Not sure about that terminology, but so let's foster his development. So well done, Cameron Dicker. I'm liking what I'm seeing. I like a Dicker.
They were my two biggest climbers, I think. Reader and Dicker was in there as well. He just we sent the kicker out from 46 yards, and he would have got it good from 52 or something, 57. I like it. Kyle Van Noy, I think, played his best game. Had his best game as a Charger. He's up my ladder. 5 total pressures. Got really close. Allowed some passages early on for SJD to get up. Just looked busy.
Liked it. Another one up my ladder, even though we maybe said he made a poor choice running it out at the start of the second half. DeAndre Carter, man, if we haven't had him in this stretch, I think we'd be looking a lot worse than we are. The guy's been a great signing. He's been a great, 5th or 6th down the depth chart, but he's been catching some pretty big balls. He's almost like what Travis Benjamin should have been when we signed him, I feel like. So, DeAndre Carter, you're rising up my ladder.
Down the snake time. Hasn't been a snake all year. Khalil Mack. I know you're all being asked to do a lot at the moment, but this was probably the game we needed you most, and you were invisible. You're invisible on the live watch. You're invisible to me on the rewatch. They were putting some extra attention on him, but if ever we needed him to make a Khalil Mack splash play, this was the game, and it didn't happen. So a 1-week snake only, maybe just a small little sea snake or something like that, not like a massive boa constrictor, and hopefully he's back up the ladder again soon.
Yeah, good. One more ladder for me, and I just totally blanked. Joshua Palmer, massive game. Probably, like you said earlier, his best game for the year, second 100-yard game in a row. Keep going. He's looking
Good
a
on
lot
him.
more dominant in the way that he catches the ball and then looks for yards after, and the way he completes his routes, and it's looking like we're getting improvement week after week after week. So, stairway to heaven.
Yep. I've got all. I don't have anything down this week because I feel like I've been very down. I need some positivity. I'm going to say Fiken and special teams. Fiken and special teams. Fiken.
You know it's
No,
Ficken, right? It's Ficken. It's like
It's
fucking
Fiken.
with an I.
I'm liking Fiken now. And it's Dejan Leonard, of course, not Dean. Just keep going. Let's go Fiken.
Call it whatever
Fiken.
you want.
I like Fiken. He's, as I said on last week's pod or the week before, we're not going to see his influence for another, we're already seeing it already, but some of those players coming through.
Super.
I have really liked special teams this year. It has not been a place of solitude and absolute misery, which it has been for the past however long. So well done, Ficken.
Last one for me. It's going to be a dual snake, a double-headed snake.
An Ouroboros eating itself, no?
It's an Ouroboros. You may as well, because it's eating away our playoff chances. These are two guys who are up for free agency or can be cut at the end of the year. And Matt Filer and Nazir Adderley, neither are doing anything to commend themselves to their future at the Chargers. So both on the snake.
Yes. Good calls right there. All right. Let's move into the Week 12 preview of the Cardinals. Just some quick Chargers news, injury room. Obviously, Keenan Allen, well, he looks to be pulling up fine. A few big dives, a lot of physical work from him, carving up crop circles in the SoFi turf like the alien he is. Mike Williams tweaked his ankle. It looked pretty innocuous. Fantastic sideline catch. I believe he's a day-to-day prospect at the moment. Bit of concern, though. Notable other ones, Bryce Callahan seems to have strained a groin. We've got, obviously Mike Williams. Injury to the right quad of J.K. Scott is a bit on the nose. Kenneth Murray had a neck injury during the game. He practiced completely today, and limited participation from Gerald Everett. Also on the injury news, it seems like Josh Kelly might be back at practice this week, which is exciting. They'll see what his progress is like, and if he's good to go, he'll be active this week. So that's exciting.
Andy, could I ask you a question about Kelly? Would you
Cool,
throw him in for Spiller or throw him in for Michelle's role? So if you've got a choice between giving Spiller the carries or Kelly straight back in there, what would you do if he's fit and active this week?
I think this week would be a good opportunity if Kelly's. I want to get Kelly back in the lineup straight off the bat, and I think Sonny Michel is the guy that misses out for it. This week, the carries were pretty much hogged by Eckler. Spiller didn't get too much, but he did a couple of okay things. So, including getting swallowed by Jones there. That was great. All right. Out of the press conferences, it was a really interesting way to see Brandon Staley the way he was with just really. Never seen him so short, just really dismissive of a lot of the questions. You can see the stress is really starting to build up on the guy. I think he's aware that it's going to be tough to make the playoffs with anything less than 11 wins, really, in this division, in this conference. We've all but handed the division over to the Chiefs. So it's wildcard spot, and it is very tight. All right. Al, run us through the Cards game against the 49ers.
Whitewash. And good to see when we played the 49ers last week and we gave it a fair
what could
shake.
it be? And what could be?
What could be indeed. The 49ers 38, the Cardinals 10 at Estadio Azteca. in Mexico City for Monday Night Football. And if you want to have a good belly laugh, you should listen to some of the broadcasts going, "It's a Monday Night of Football!" Absolutely going off their rocker.
I love it.
Spanish there. It's a Monday Night Football.
So much passion. No, the
Bobbity-bobbity.
Latino broadcasters just go for it, man. And the international series has been a massive success for the NFL this year, and I'm sure they'll get many more games in the future. But in this one, it was a blowout. Even though the score was 10-17 at halftime, in the second half, the 49ers scored 21 unanswered points. George Kittle was a complete menace with 4 catches for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jimmy G had 228 yards and 4 touchdown passes. So, well, look, and Brandon Ayuk had his moments as well, scoring himself for 2. Colt McCoy was a quarterback for the Cardinals, so it's hard to read too much into that particular loss, but they couldn't get anything on the ground. They only had 67 yards rushing. McCoy threw an interception to Jimmy Ward. It was just a complete one-sided affair. And when you just take a quick look at the Cardinals at the moment, they've already announced that Kyler Murray is going to play this week, returning from a hamstring injury. So they're going to give it a go. Clearly, they're 4-7. They're trying to get their season somewhere out of the doldrums. They're going to throw him in there. Hollywood Brown, there's no word yet on if he'll play or not, but there's a chance he comes off IR. And then you've got a bunch of other guys who didn't practice, like Rondale Moore, the wide receiver, Greg Dortch, their slot receiver, DJ Humphries, their left tackle, Byron Murphy, their starting cornerback. So their injury list is looking as bad as ours. But maybe we can transition there for how they pose a threats to us, Andy, and some of the strengths of the Arizona Cardinals.
Well, I think Kyler Murray back is a big strength, a big plus for this Cardinals team. They've just looked an absolute mess with Colt McCoy and McSorley. Having DeAndre Hopkins with 5 games under his belt. I think he's notched up 487 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he's averaging 9 receptions a game. He is just lighting it up. And I think the only game he was under 70 or something was against Seattle. Those rookie corners there did a job on him.
He's also averaging 3 steroid injections a week, I think I hear.
Oh, God, the chat around him has been great. Steroid boy. That was very fun. Was it Jimmy Ward who came out with that?
That whole team's screwed. Well, their off-field stuff is real bad. They just had their offensive line coach get sacked overnight for groping a woman in Mexico after the game. See you later.
Nuts.
Oh, really? I did not see that.
They've had a lot of different things this year. It's a real struggle town for them.
Well, look, we'll see what happens with Greg Dortch, but I watched him and he's just got a bit of wicked speed. And tackling is one of our problems. And at times coverage is a problem. Derwin's been a little bit of a letdown in coverage at times. And didn't see nearly as much as I would have liked to out of Asante Samuel Jr. last week.
Got torched.
So, look, I think if their offense is rocking and, they get Hollywood Brown back or they get Rondale Moore back, they've also got James Conner, the typical kind of runner that the Chargers struggle against. And Al, as you beautifully alluded to earlier, run defense is not getting any better. And we're coming up against teams who can run the ball all day. And it's going to be a big, big grind. Rugged, as Coach Staley would say, rugged games. Any strengths from you guys? What do you see as being big threats to the Chargers this week?
Yeah, well, this is the Sean Payton Bowl, if we're to listen to the media
Well
at the
said.
moment. So, the whoever loses here looks like they're going to be fired the day after, and Sean Payton walks in and get the job. Strengths for the Cardinals, you've talked about it a lot there, Andy, with their receivers. Nuke Hopkins is going to be tough to stop if he's back. Well, if he's playing well. I just think you've got to contain Murray as much as possible because he's dynamite with his legs. If he's got a bit of a hamstring injury, I do wonder how mobile he will be. I don't think that their offensive line is particularly good. I don't think their defensive line is particularly. I'll hold off on few of those, but yeah, make Murray throw the ball. If not, and if he gets out, and if he's mobile, that's when we're going to struggle a little bit. Al?
He's one of the most interesting transformations of a quarterback I can recall in recent years. Do you know he's gone from having PFF's highest big-time throw rate in the NFL to the lowest? How do you go from first to 32nd?
Snake.
That's
a
2.1% big time throws. And his average depth of target is less than Herbert's. It's down at under 7 yards per attempt. So something bizarre's gone on where they've gone from being this huge offense. He can throw the ball beautifully when he wants to just no big time throws, dink and dunk bullshit. So, yeah, I know we're morphing into weaknesses now, but I think we've already covered off the strengths. I'd say Buda Baker's also a good player on their defense. And they also blitz the second most in the NFL. So Vance Joseph likes to send a lot of blitzes, and they're sixth on pressures. So they get home as well. So that's something we're going to have to be mindful of. But what about some of their weaknesses, Big Jack?
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder, just on that point you made before, whether the Cliffs Kingsbury air raid offense is fairly easy to figure out, and that, you know, defensive coordinators in opposition have sort of taken 12 to 18 months to get on top of it and actually go, you know what, this is actually fairly easy to take away the throws that Kyler Murray has been used to making at the start of his career. So that's a weakness, the air raid offense. Listen, let's just abuse this defense, man.
This is the fun stuff, yeah.
Yeah, let's just abuse them. I mean, God, you look at all their PFF ratings, their defense has just got holes everywhere. The only thing in terms of, which might be challenging for our offensive line is, I talked about it earlier, but Zach Allen, you know, Alistair, you rightly pointed me out saying that he's had a really poor first 3 years, but in his contract year, he's playing really well. So we're going to have to watch him. And listen, even though JJ Watt is not having a great season, he's someone you've always got to watch, but he's old now. Isaiah Simmons has not turned out to be the player that they wanted him. He's no Micah Parsons, which they were hoping that he would be. Attack Byron Murphy at Junie. Buda Baker, you said, is strong, but still not having a great season.
Good run defense, bad in coverage. So they're all bad in coverage. Their secondary, Marco Wilson, Jalen Thompson. It's a bad secondary.
Attack the middle of the field with their middle linebackers, because they won't be able to stick with Carter, Allen, Williams if he plays. I'm expecting a big day out of Austin Eckler and whoever's running the ball, whether it be Kelly, Spiller, or Michelle.
Yeah, right. Well, look, I mean, JJ Watt's still leading the team in total pressures and sacks, so he might be old, but he's not junk. I guess for me. Yeah, look, I just can't get past what we need to do on offense against this defense. It's got to have it for 4 quarters. That's with you, Jack. Al, you got anything different, man?
No, man, it's a good opportunity for Keenan and Palmer to destroy this team. Now, I'm happy for us to go pass first approach against them. They blitz, so look for the hot reads if you need to. I'd like to get Eckler isolated on linebackers. I think he's a good matchup against Zaven Collins, Neiman, and whoever else they have running around there, Simmons. So I think defensively, we've got a good chance to stick a lot of points on these guys. On defense, if we can't bottle up this running game, we're in trouble. Murray, if Murray does play, which it looks like he will, you've got to be more mindful with your contain and scramble prevention. So it's a good thing we just played Mahomes, although Murray has a different skill set even still. Like, he's got some special quickness. I don't know, bracket DeAndre Hopkins is another big one on the defense. Like, that's what I would do. Just don't let us lose the game with him. If it's Michael Davis and then inside support from Adderley, let's do that. But otherwise, I don't think...
Well, JT Woods.
Yeah, good to see him.
If you're going to bracket him and use a rangy guy who can sort of tackle, match him up with a guy who's a ball hawk, and that's his skill set, and get some snaps into him, because I'm sick of seeing the angles that Adderley takes on tackles. It's crap, and he gets himself in the wrong positions, and we're just not seeing the improvement that we thought we were seeing at the end of last year and the start of this year. Give JT Woods snaps.
And one that might be a fun one is...
We might need these guys later. Blood them now. Sorry, play on.
No, same goes for Jasir Taylor. He had his first 2 snaps on defense this week, and if Callahan can't go, we're going to get to see a brand new player trying to stop either Dortch or who's handy, as you said, if he's healthy enough to go, or whoever their third receiver is in the slot. I'm looking forward to seeing that, because Jasir Taylor had moments in the preseason, so hopefully Callahan can go, but if he can't, it's something to watch.
That excites me. The idea of Jasir Taylor on the field. Good energy on special teams, so it's good to see. All right, Jack, start us off. What are the keys to victory and your prediction for this game?
We've already covered a couple of them. Keys to victory. I think this is Staley's chance to actually go and put pressure on Kingsbury. Kingsbury's known for making really poor decisions under pressure. There's been all sorts of things going on behind the scenes. They seem to be in disarray in their front office and in their coaching ranks. So Staley, this is your chance to really go out and put the pressure on the opposition sideline. So I'm looking for you to control the game. I'm looking for Herbert to control the game, and I'm looking for Lombardi to control the game. I want us to control the game for the fourth time. If we don't put up more than 30 points, I will be very surprised, and the pitchforks will be out for Joe if we don't. I'm thinking I'm either going 38 or 41. I'm going to say 41-31 Chargers. Absolute barn burner. I'm going to go and see that.
And we're giving up 31.
I reckon it's going to be a barn burner. Yep.
All right.
Barn burner.
I don't know.
I'll jump in,
in
Andy.
the dark.
Yeah, mate, go for it.
I'll go Chargers 28, Cardinals 21. I think it's going to be more of the same where we want a big, massive win, but we're going to have the win, but just not feel that great about it. But we'll be 6-5. So that's my tip, 28-21 Chargers victory.
Yeah, I've got the Chargers winning 27-24. I can't really give us more than a field goal line because we just can't really win a game by more than that. So we're going to give up some yards to Hopkins. There's inevitable stuff. My keys to victory, like you said, Jack, really important. Contain Kyler Murray, lock down their run game, and exploit their weak secondary and rubbish coverage. So, please, no more bullshit. Let's have a good Monday or Sunday, your time. And bolt the fuck up, baby. Thanks for joining us again on the Thunder Down Under podcast. We will see you next time.
See you next week.
Back pedals looking, firing. He's got Floyd turning. Got it. 6 10, 5, high step, touchdown! San